Hey guys, and welcome back to the Property Strategy Podcast. Today I have a very special guest sitting down on the couch. I have Matt Srama, the founder of Srama. Mate, thanks so much for coming into the studio today.
Mate, great to be here. Welcome to the Gold Coast.
Thank you so much for having me in your house, your hometown. I usually start out by saying, for those of you who don't know who you are, can you give us a bit of a backstory? But I would imagine that most people would know who you are. Like, I know who you were from when you donned that headgear playing for the Gold Coast Titans. So just for those who aren't rugby league fanatics like I am, do you mind just giving people a little bit of backstory in terms of where people may have seen you in and around and what led you briefly into the foray into buyer's agency world? Yeah,
no, my former life, I was a professional athlete. So since the age of 6, my goal was always to play professional sport, achieve that goal at the end of the age of 19, 20. Lived out a great career playing footy, retired through injury, unfortunately, at the age of 26. You know, property investment and property was always my escape from the pressures of rugby league. And then, you know, fast forward to when I retired, I was like, I'm going to try and start a career in property. So started in sales, noticed the gap in the buyer's agency space, and then took that with both hands. And yeah, now here we are today running a buyer's agency on the Gold Coast.
Excellent stuff. So I just want to, if we can, unpack some of that psychology in terms of what was happening when you were a footy player at the time. Was property still a thing for you? Like, were you interested in it then or not really? It was kind of towards the back end of the career or when you were forced to retire through injury? Like, when was that property journey born on your end?
I'd say the exposure to having older teammates was definitely one part of it.
As in, were they doing it?
Yeah. Right. Well, you sort of think about it, right? As a professional sports team, you have people from all different walks of life. And in the locker room, you're just surrounded by these guys, like literally nearly 24/7. Like, you're traveling with them, you're eating with them, you're recovering with them. Like, you're just always with them. And next to me I was one of the youngest in the squad. And, you know, if you're a footy fan, the likes of like Preston Campbell and Ash Harrison, Luke Bay, all the OG Titans, you know, they're your kind of influence, right?
These guys are what at this point, like, mate, probably late 20s, early 30s?
Nearly mid 30s, right? Kids, families, houses, and you're a young 19-year-old. You know,
they take you under the wing?
Well, that's the cool thing, right? All my other 19-year-old friends are hanging out with 19-year-olds. I'm hanging out with 35-year-olds. So they put you in your place, that's for sure. But in saying that, they've got more exposure to life, I guess. So a lot of them did things in property. I remember one of them in particular was telling me, you know, he bought multiple property. He had like 4 property. I was just blown away. Wow, like investing in property and things like that. So I think that's where the initial seed was planted. And then, as I said, the thing around professional sport, it's an emotional pressure cooker. Like, you are critiqued every day at training. You're critiqued in video review. You're critiqued by the media. You're critiqued by the fans. It's this constant pressure environment, and you're hunting for someone's spot ahead of you, and you got the young whippersnapper hunting at your heels, trying to take your spot. So I always enjoyed time of relief away from the footy field. And honestly, I really enjoyed obviously hanging out with the lads, but I found this kind of hobby with like property, and that came just through reading magazines. You know, YouTube was kind of just getting started. There was no podcast. And that was really the entry. It was the old Your Property Investment Mag, or API, Australian Property Investor. Remember that magazine? That's kind of what was the catalyst of it all.
So a question I ask every guest, and this is a really great segue, is I just want to know, first property that we bought, when was it? What was it? How much did we spend? What's it worth today? And do we still own it?
Yeah, great question. There's obviously still remember it very, very clearly. So it was a detached duplex, 1 block back from the beach in the suburb of Palm Beach, Queensland, 4221, 3-bed, 2-bath, small yard, pretty basic. The location was just that's what it was for me. It was literally like you walk to the beach, and that was a dream of mine.
Did you live there?
Yeah. So my first house was actually an owner occupier, and it was, at the time, for me, I was just like, whoa, like $600,000, right? And I remember the deposit and everything. I was like, I've saved up this cash as a young kid, and you know, he's just sitting there, and you're like, I'm about to depart with all this
All of it,
Like, am I making the right play?
Yeah.
Am I making the right move? And I procrastinated. And
were you playing at this point?
Playing at this point, right? Super scared. My parents didn't come from any form of wealth or property, anything like that. And I just kind of what I was learning with property and looking back at the negotiation now, I overpaid by at least 30 grand, I would say. And I remember just thinking to myself, far out. And hindsight's crazy, right? So 600 grand in 2024, mate. 2014.
Yep.
I'd say 2013, 2014. It's probably 1.8 now.
Have you done heaps to it?
Nothing. Yeah.
Oh, you've done nothing.
Nothing. I put some fake turf out the back. Yeah. So, and that I still have to this day. And when I was younger, what I used to do was, being a young bachelor, you got a 3-bedroom home. I started renting out the bedrooms for cash flow.
Beautiful.
So my strategy,
hustlers, if you needed
it. Yeah. So yeah, well, it's funny. People always misconception with foot. I was a battler, so to speak. People don't realize like your top. There's your marquee. They're the ones you see on the headlines.
Yeah.
There's this crew down the bottom, mate. They're getting barely minimum wage, right?
Yeah,
so I was playing off match payments.
Yeah.
So
when you think
I had to play to get paid, pretty much.
Wow.
So that's why my body's butt, because I wanted
give it everything.
Give it everything.
So it's not the mega millions.
Unless you're again one of the marquee and you're signing on big endorsements, things like that. That's what people forget. But I call it battler. There's all these battlers
out there
that are
it's still the case today.
1 year deals, bouncing around, club hopping, and they're barely making minimum wage. Still, yes, better than the average 19-year-old, but by no means is it life-changing money.
So we did need the cash flow. We did need the cash flow
100%.
From the other rooms.
Yeah. Well, what it did was I started learning about investing property and borrowing capacity and things like that. So what I used to do was rent out the bedrooms, and collect it, all above board here, but I collect it. I'd use that as discretionary spending.
Yep.
And my borrowing would look really clean. I wasn't really spending anything.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then when I'd travel away on away games, we're fed and we're looked after.
So your expenses are almost nil.
Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful.
So that's where really started. I started going, as soon as I was ready to buy, bank, knock on the door. Yep, here's some money, go buy. So, but yes, to answer your initial question, still got it to this day. Yeah, obviously Gold Coast did its thing, but that one property showed me the power of location will do 80% of the heavy lifting. The location, the scarcity, like really close to the water, can't be built out. It's just going to keep going up.
And I think the fact that you bought it with like your owner occupied lens as well, has just added, like obviously you can't beat that location, but also like you wouldn't have just bought anywhere for yourself to live in. Like it was quite particular and it ticked your boxes. So it's obviously going to tick the boxes of a lot of future home buyers.
Yeah, 100%. And upon hindsight too, yes, I was blessed that I made that decision, but I realized like the rent vest strategy I think it's a good one. I really do. And even looking back now, even though I don't regret it and it was a great move and that one property obviously changed a lot of my property investment path, I still think, again, if I had the hat on now, I reckon I could have got in the market 2 years earlier and just got some rental properties. Just rented.
Yeah. Are you seeing maybe not so much a prevalence now, but have you seen over the last few years a shift towards that whole rent vesting model here on the GC?
Huge, yeah. Well, you think about it, right? The average price point now, we're over $1 million on the Gold Coast for entry level.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, wage growth just isn't keeping up with capital growth here on the Gold Coast. So unfortunately, a lot of people are out of the market. But whilst being out of the market from an owner-occupier point of view, that doesn't mean you can't be in the market of building wealth.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the rent vest strategy is huge. I'm seeing some really astute, younger demographic people on the Gold Coast doing this amazing thing where they're accumulating assets, renting where the lifestyle makes sense, and still keeping chips inside of the market, letting it appreciate and growth. And then they're coming to a point in time, maybe they're selling down a few and then getting the nice owner-occupier close to the beach.
Yeah, with a lower debt position.
Exactly right.
No, it's excellent. And obviously coming from Sydney, it's been a strategy that's been around for quite some time and plenty of people employing that just because your entry-level property of $1 million here is basically $2 million in Sydney, and you could rent something very similar for half, less than half, a third of your weekly repayments you could spend on rent and get a pretty similar property without the upkeep of it. Let's talk about, so you've obviously, you've come in, you've bought property number one, maybe a bit of a light bulb moment at some point there. Where, like, what kind of asset did you move to next? And have you always stayed hard and fast and looked at a particular, I don't know, price point, location? Like, what has been your investment philosophy when we've gone from property number one to property two? And how did you then finance property number two? Did you just rip equity straight out, or were you saving up for that next deposit again? Yeah,
another good question. So again, going back to when, early 20s, knowing that, hey, not on the wage of some of my teammates, but also on a better wage than some of my 20-year-old friends, right? Again, expenses weren't massive. As I said, I wasn't blowing my money at, Shooters Nightclub and Surfers Paradise.
But also you very much could have, right?
100%. Yeah. And I'm saying that because don't worry, my teammates, I seen a different side of it. So I was just lucky. I'm half Polish, half Filipino. So my parents were very scarce, switch all the lights off, save electricity.
But is that why you think you went, like, you were able to be so diligent?
I was always a good saver. Yeah, I was always a good saver. Like, if I didn't need to buy the clothes, I wouldn't buy it. Like, I don't know. That was just kind of in my DNA. So I was, again, had low expenses. I was battling through injury to get the matches.
Payments,
and I'd store it away, and then, cash deposit for the second one. And then, as I said, I was then learning around, you don't have to live in the property. This is investing now. So shout out to the Property Couch, the OGs. And I know Michael Yardney. Like, they were sort of my OG influences from afar. And I remember Bryce and that, that's where that saying comes from. 80% of the heavy lifting is a location. So I started philosophy on that, learning around land to asset ratio. So where that landed me, my second property, I think I nailed kind of what I was learning. There was temptation to buy the shiny, house and land, and I'm not saying these aren't wrong, right or wrong. I'm just saying, for me, it didn't feel right. So the shiny object, the townhouse that had all the bells and whistles, I was leaning more toward land to asset ratio. So find the best piece of dirt you can. And on the Gold Coast, that was obviously the closer to the ocean you got. It was scarce. Obviously, I don't have $10 million to buy the beachfront property. So it's like, okay, land to asset ratio. Could I buy a block close to the beach though, in maybe a block of 6, 8, like low density? That was what I was looking for. And so I went hard at that, and I secured a property that's literally ocean view. You can see the ocean from the balcony, not ocean front, just ocean view. It's on the one back from the Gold Coast Highway in the suburb again of Palm Beach. And it's corner block. And it was about an 80 square meter block, and there was 8, just 2-bedroom, 1 bath, those brick.
Beautiful.
Brick, blonde brick kind of things, no pool, no lifts, anything like that. And I seen a property, and again, I was starting to learn this whole negotiation thing. It wasn't comfortable for me, and I was still learning. And I remember I missed out on the property. It went for $320.
Oh, you missed out?
Yeah, I missed out, $320. And I was again, scared, procrastinated, missed out on 3, and it went. Because I took too long to kind of take action, kicking myself. Anyways, the lady in the unit below on the ground floor one somehow got my number, and I think it was from the owner of the upstairs, said I was the one that missed out. So my second and my first investment property was actually an off-market
deal, direct through the owner.
Direct, yeah. So that exposed me to the off-market. And I gave her, she asked for $310 because she didn't have any agent. I gave it, I didn't even need, I said, I've learned from that.
I'll take
$310 and still got that property to this day. It's probably in the 9s now.
Wow.
2-bed, 1 bath, probably spent $15K on it, a basic paint, freshen up. And the rent well and covers the mortgage. And again, my biggest lesson with that property is land to asset ratio, because we get developers knocking on our door all the time. But the big one is, just because something's negatively geared early doesn't make it's not going to be a cash flow engine in the future. And that's what people forget is they look at the numbers. Yes, I was scared. I paid $310, but the rent was only like $250. It wasn't covering. Everyone wants it to cover the mortgage. Yeah. It wasn't. But I was listening to all these capital appreciation, blah, 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 all that. I was still only in 20s. All right, I'll do it. It bought my time. After about year 2, things spitting like positive cash flow now. So don't ever try and like think like, I just want positive cash flow from day dot and compromise on the fundamentals. Yes.
You hit 2 things for me there. So first thing that came to mind was you've gone in the same suburb, which may be a fundamental no for most people. But if you're going to double down in a suburb, you may as well double down in Palm Beach.
Yes. Yeah.
So firstly, like, because you often hear like, oh, spread your eggs and diversification and blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't buy in your own backyard. But if your own backyard is a very good backyard, double down. It's fine. And you're evidence that you can do very well doubling down in the same suburb. Obviously, you wouldn't want your entire portfolio there, but so that's the first thing. And then the second one is another one you get thrown around as well, and maybe less so now because people are starting to think a little bit more and more about it. But the fact that it wasn't a freestanding house on a X amount of block of land, right? You bought into a strata complex, but you bought into a boutique one where your land to asset ratio was still quite high. So if it was 8 in the block and it was an 800 square meter, 880 or whatever it was, you obviously still own 1/8 of that 880 squares. So your land to asset ratio is still quite high. So there's a couple of things there that I hope the listeners can take from that. Because we are 3x your money, right?
Yeah.
So it can still grow. Just because it's strata doesn't mean that it's not going to grow.
Well, that's the biggest misconception I see with people with investing is that house is the answer. Don't get me wrong, I've got mostly houses in my portfolio now, but back then, I couldn't get into a house. So again, it's that like, well, I'm going to go the fundamental. I'm going to follow the dirt.
Yeah.
Even though I can't get a house, I'll take 1/8 of a house or land versus a whole house but compromised location. So again, and then if I weigh up a house in a compromised location back in 2014, whenever it was, versus the 1/8 portion, my cash on cash return was actually better and that's what always fundamentally changes. Like, don't buy units. Yes. Don't buy high rise units.
Yes. Sure. Yeah.
So there's always ways. And that's why I still believe that dirt and the location plays a big part of it.
And so the portfolio over time has now kind of moved and evolved. So like obviously we started with the owner occupier. We've bought a strata property in Palm Beach as well. High level, what does the portfolio look like today?
Yeah, so there's 11 properties with 20 rentals part of it. And why I say that is I started getting into unit blocks.
Yep.
So one title, but multiple income streams.
Where's that one, if you don't mind me asking?
Regional Queensland. Okay. I think Rockhampton. Yep. 2 of them are Rockhampton. They're just pure set and forgets. They were about 6 years ago now.
Yep. Cash flow pretty good?
Cash flow is good, yeah. Cash flow is good on those. Are they hold forever? Don't know. Don't know. I mean,
but they're easy enough to hold.
It's had really good growth up there, but I don't think that those pockets are going to be more of another growth play. Maybe it's just a cash flow or pay down.
Yep.
But they've allowed me to borrowing capacity on higher growth things. So I'm always in the constant looking at the portfolio of, there's cash flow to supplement the borrowing capacity needed to say to the bank, hey, I can afford this versus, hey, I actually need some deposits from capital growth. And that in its simplest form is what I like to call the basic strategy of what I've adopted the whole time. And there's so many ways to skin a cat. I always say that, but I've kind of gone the low risk approach of like capital growth. And I believe age is an important thing to understand too. If you're starting your portfolio like I did in your 20s, you've got time. You've got
decades, right?
You've got time, man. Like don't think you're going to be this mega millionaire at 25, like that will dictate. If you're aiming for that like quick hit fix, it's going to dictate a different strategy. I just believe, look, property is a get rich slow vehicle, but it can get you rich. Like it's significantly rich, but people don't have the patience and discipline to stick it out. So I've realized the capital growth, you don't feel anything in those first 2 to 3 years, but at year 8, 10, 12, it's life-changing stuff. In saying that, if you had all just capital growth and no cash flow, you can't, you're going to be a lot of stress because you don't have the borrowing. So it's kind of playing that game of, I heard the term early on, pigeon pairing, right? You hear that term in the investment world. Maybe it's pigeon pairing a high growth asset with maybe a unit block regional that's going to supplement a bit of that, take up a bit of that negative gearing on the high capital growth one. So that's kind of been the play, but fundamentally always outside those cash flow regionals, always gone into, a Melbourne, a Brisbane, Gold Coast,
sort of close cities to to big
cities that have got a bit of metro about it. Yeah.
Now, I also read something very recently and saw you featured in an article in and around what I believe to be one of your most recent acquisitions. Do you mind just giving us a bit of a rundown in terms of what that property looked like? Why now?
Yeah. So, yes, there was something online, the commercial, like talking about commercial and stuff like that. Commercial is something that has been on my mind, and that, beyond the whole decade I've been investing in property. Like, it's always been there.
Yep.
I just felt it's the right time now. And the reason I say that is commercial is a different beast. Not only is it a different asset, the due diligence required to understand it more is a whole nother ballpark.
It's like you're going to go buy a house, then you have to go and interrogate the family that's living there and understand their life story. Where did they come from?
Literally, yeah.
So it's not just the property; it's the business behind it as well.
So much.
Did the property you buy, was it tenanted?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and again, not going too deep into it, but long story. It took a while because it was subject to renewing of lease. Because effectively, as the valuation, a lot of it is determined on the lease and the income and stuff like that. So I sort of secured at a price, but then there was some uplift with renewing this lease for another 5 years. That was more, and that was kind of all of it. But in a net position, looking closer to that 6.4, 6.5, which in today's world is kind of, again, I'm looking more, all right, I'm going to get more of a cash flow asset. And keep, and I will go back to resi, but I felt it was time that commercial, the equity position was strong enough to supplement a good commercial. I also believe you never want to just get into an asset for the sake of it, and for me, I wasn't seeing too much happening under the 1.5 and below. I mean, again, depending on location, I wanted really a first time commercial. Again, this is my risk mitigate. I wanted a really strong city. Because I want the businesses to be strong there. I want if it ever becomes vacant, I want there to be tenancies and
so let's actually touch on that though. So you're saying in the commercial arena, for a decent quality metro area, we don't really want to be paying sub 1.5. What about if we talk about resi and maybe more just if we can speak to the GC or maybe Southeast Queensland? Is there realistically, this is your entry point right now, investor?
Yeah. And just quickly on that is also more of a Gold Coast, Southeast, the commercials in South. Again, I'm sure there could be really good commercial assets sub 1.5, but not in
your core market.
In my core market, exactly right. In terms of your other question around what's that sort of entry point, I'd say on the gold. Look, the sweet spot I'm finding at the moment, there's really three, and it really depends on, your borrowing capacity. I would say the entry would be more that 700 to 900.
And what's that getting you these days?
That's getting you kind of what my old first investment. Yeah. Bread and butter, kind of low set brick, good location. Unfortunately, Southern Gold Coast is nearly at $1 million now for one of those. So as I said, my one's valued probably 950, 970, and it's old. So to give you perspective, you're nearly needing $1 million for one of those in the Southern Gold Coast. But I'm seeing huge opportunity on the Northern Gold Coast for the same type of asset class.
Okay.
Yeah, big time.
And it's a couple $100,000 less.
Yeah, in that 700 to 900.
And what are we talking again? We're talking like a 2-3 story walk up, 2-bed, 1 bath.
It could even be a 1 story. Our team at Srama secured a few off market. We're talking blocks of 3. They're just beautiful. 3 side by side, low set. Yeah. Literally $40 to hold it a week on Body Corporate.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So they are doing really well from a fast growth. They are just going bang, really quickly because you sort of think from an economic standpoint on people's borrowing capacities, most of Australia aren't, not everyone has a 1.5, 2 million, 2.5, right? A lot of people are sub-million.
Yep.
And a lot of investors have got their owner occ and maybe they've only got ability for sub-million. So it's a very competitive market. Yeah. When you take into the location of the Gold Coast where you got ocean to the east, hinterland to the west. It's very landlocked. And that's why, again, going to that fundamental of like, well, how good of a location can you get with as little dwellings as possible with the best kind of land to asset ratio you can. That's kind of in its simplest form. That's what I'd be looking at. And that's kind of your entry to, I'd say, a really strong asset on the Gold Coast.
If we bump it up a price point.
Yeah, I'd say the next one for freestanding home would be around the mid to high ones. Mid ones, again, Northern Gold Coast, get in there. If you really like the Southern Gold Coast because it's performing really well, I'd be looking at that 1.7, 1.9 can get you a really good, maybe 3-bed, 1 to 2 bath, low set.
What would that
brick
rent for, out of interest?
Yeah, probably sitting around 4.5-ish if you were to do it up a bit.
It's still not too bad for a house from a rental yield perspective.
You consider the sub 1% vacancy rates, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. The ugly ones, like I've got one in my portfolio that I've just rented. It is literally the worst house in a really good street. It's a dive. Gets $1,100 a week.
Wow.
And it's a dive.
Imagine what that will do after a bit of a cosmetic uplift.
Yeah, cosmetic uplift. So that's what I like for investors is like, again, good location, low set brick, good block of land, good location, and then does it have room to manufacture equity through cosmetic uplift? You know, no need to do the full big, huge renovation, things like keep your costs
low,
minimal as you can. The rents are there. Like again, most of these suburbs are 0.7% vacancy rate. So it's pretty wild. And then the last one for more of our astute and business owner clients we work with, unit blocks in beachside locations. Same thing, kind of those ones we're talking about, but buying the whole block. Some of the team secured some off market. There was a block of 3, Mermaid Beach, 2.2 mil. You can get blocks of 4 for circa 3s. So that 2 to 3 mil, you're getting that brick location, you know, development potential and then rental demand through multiple streams of income. That's a really good
What
asset.
size blocks are these on?
Anywhere from 550 to 900-ish.
Yeah, wow. So pretty decent parcels.
Decent, yeah. Good solid parcels and good locations. And again, you sort of think if you're maybe an astute investor, you might have a few and then you're getting one of these and then maybe you're doing a lick of paint, carpet, fans in each of the units and they're all at 0.7% vacancy rate. You know, you're kind of, they're the sort of vehicles I'm noticing the astute investors are going from that to that really quickly. Yeah. The only difference is you way bigger price point to get in. Yeah, exactly.
Are you seeing much in terms of like the purchase a block and whatever, bulldoze the house and put 2 on there, or if whatever the house is a portion to the left, you could maybe build on the right, like this whole subdivision duplex build here in the GC? Not really?
Yes. Look, I'm no builder, but this is just because our team of work, we've got a section of our business that specializes in helping, you know, builders and smaller scale developers with duplexes and acquisition on that.
Yep.
So we're really fortunate. Get to work with some of the best builders on the Gold Coast. One thing I'm hearing constantly is the margins are getting thinner.
Yeah,
it's getting harder.
Yeah. As in the land, like the buying price is too high, cost of materials.
The combination of one of the highest capital growth cities in the country, your buying price for the dirt with nothing on it is up, yet your cost to build is going up.
Yeah.
So that's getting a little thinner. The ones I'm seeing it do well are the ones who own the building company.
Yeah, where they're not paying the 30% margin to the builder.
Exactly right. They have to keep it themselves.
Is that in, because obviously you do a lot of owner-occ stuff as well, is that in super high demand from your owner-occupied clients, like to buy the end product?
Exactly. So here's the cycle of life I'm seeing on the Gold Coast for this more astute sort of turning over big profits, is whether it is a builder or they've got builder connections, or maybe doing a JV with a builder where they can absorb some of those costs. Finding one of those blocks I was telling you around, it could be starting from around the mid to high 1s, going into the sort of mid to high 2s. That's getting you blue chip Gold Coast. Either knock the thing down, renovate it, but then you got to be thinking that back end buyer now on the Gold Coast isn't what it used to be.
Right.
We could never attract your $5 million, $6 million, 10 for, you know, one of our purchases earlier, we bought a $14 million house. We just bought something for a business owner that was 12 million, you know, that's here on the Gold Coast.
Things you
now.
never thought you would have seen here.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
One thing I'm saying though, those builds, they're all moving here, but a lot of them are renting because they don't have the product that suits.
Yes.
Because there isn't enough quality builds yet. We're getting there, but that's what I'm seeing.
Do you think that they'll end up absorbing this stock?
I do, because that's what I'm noticing. If it's priced well, you go on realestate.com or just on a Friday and a Sunday, go to some of the auctions. Just go on realestate.com and put your price point above like 8 million. If it's priced well, you'll see how many bidders are fighting for it.
Yeah, wow.
So one thing I'm saying to a lot of builders or people doing JVs is if you can build the right product, price it well, and absorb some costs through, doing it yourself, I think the buyer's there. The buyer is there. So that's again, high risk, high reward play.
Yeah. Interesting to note you said that those people are moving here, and like we've seen it. We've seen plenty of people move to the Gold Coast for the lifestyle, but you're seeing that they're first parking themselves into a rental? Just because there's no product for them to buy, or they're just going to try before they buy?
Great question. I would say one of the highest demographics of people moving here to the Gold Coast right now is some sort of higher exec leader within a business or a business owner, family, three, four, or five, and they're moving here for lifestyle, right? They've done really well wherever they are, Sydney, Melbourne, or overseas. They're coming here for lifestyle, to enjoy life. A lot of them are moving in, renting for 6 to 12 months first, and then exploring,
figuring
and getting
out
the lay of the land.
Where do I want to be?
Lay of the land, yeah. Because one thing around the Gold Coast is it's not a big stretch of city, but the demographic and community feel is so different between every 10 minutes you drive north and south. The difference between the vibe in Mermaid is so different to the vibe in Palm Beach, to the different vibe in Southport, different vibe in Robina and Tully Valley. Like they're all so different. So
I'm going to now ask you to put your owner-occupied buyer's agent hat on. Let's say I'm coming to you and I live in, Singapore, for example, and I want you to help buy me a house. How would you help me to go, well, you've never been here before, or you've holidayed here and you went to Movie World 12 years ago. How do you figure out what the right pocket is for that client?
Yeah, it's such a good question. One of the biggest tips I always give to people wanting to move to the Gold Coast that don't have a set parameter on where they want to live yet from an owner-occupier standpoint, if they're not planning on moving here and renting first, we always get them to go through like some self-reflection questions. And a lot of that revolves around, firstly, the purpose behind the purchase. As I said, if it's a lifestyle thing, well, understand what's important to your lifestyle. For example, we've got people based in Singapore, New York, and different, and some value beach, some value privacy.
Sure.
That's a good telltale sign of like the type of area they might like.
Where do I go if I want privacy?
Well, the hinterland market is one of the hottest products right now.
Is it a lot cheaper?
It used to be, but not. Well, think about this. I checked the other day. Talabudra Valley and Currumbin Valley, the 12-month growth one was 55% and one was like 38%.
What's the drive to the beach from there?
It's like 12 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. It's 12 to 15-minute drive to the beach.
Right.
But if you've never taken a drive out there, you literally feel like you're in another world. It's very quiet, very big acreage blocks.
And so like what does like a really good quality property cost me there?
Oh, some of the big builds are like above 10 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's something, we're talking like compound style things. So we're seeing there's been a lot of sort of celebrities and different people like that owning some of these properties, and they're very exclusive, big gates and all of those things. But I think if you're not from here, I think that's one is understanding purpose behind purchase. So it's usually lifestyle or work, whatever it is. And then after that, it's really uncovering, I call it like peeling the onion back, right? Peeling the onion is one of the best exercises a buyer can do to try and find themselves the right property. The problem with the Gold Coast is there isn't enough volume of dwellings coming to the market to peel that onion back quicker.
Yeah.
So what I find is, and this is what I coach a lot of our team to do, is we need to help clients peel the onion back quicker. So the more no's they have, the closer they're going to get to the core of the onion. The problem is most buyers don't have enough no's to actually progress forward.
Simply due to lack of supply?
Lack of supply.
Right.
So the ability to have more on your plate, say no to it, is actually the feedback necessary to move forward.
And find the right one.
And find the right one. So in a low supply market like the Gold Coast, that's why the average buyer right now is taking over 9 months to find something.
Wow.
Is because it's so vast, each suburb. But in order to get to that core of what you truly want, you need more no's. If you can't get more no's because there's not enough supply, it's just trajectory around it, and then people complain too of like, well, the market's moving so quickly. Again, you can imagine if there's so many people looking, they're desperate for what they want because it's taking so long, and one pops up, we're all fighting over it, boom, capital growth, and that's kind of what's happening right now. And not to mention a lot of the builders are struggling with the margins, so they're not building at the rate they were either. So where supply is kind of like halting.
So in that's obviously what's been happening to date. If you were to put get your crystal ball out, what's your prediction in terms of what's going to happen in the next 12, 24 months, 5 years, for example, for Gold Coast and maybe Southeast Queensland in general?
Yeah, I think the number one point that needs to be addressed for the Gold Coast is supply. I think demand isn't going to stop. We can't change that. At the end of the day, for anyone that's in the Gold Coast, you got to understand you're living in a demand city, and the cost of living in a demand city is busyness and growth and change. And to say that you're against change and gentrification, and to not want that, I always say you got to choose your hard. What's also hard is having a city where no one wants to be, and all the cafes and shops are empty, and all the poor business owners have to put close down signs as well. What's also hard is what used to be your cafes now buzzing with all these Gen Zers taking selfies and paying $20 for a smoothie and you can't get a park. Hey, it is what it is, man. So at the end of the day, we are a growing city. Adopt that. At the end of the day, how do we make sure we're keeping the neighborhood feel and the community what people loved in the first place? I think it starts with supply. How do we get supply in a landlocked city? We can't just go up, otherwise we're a concrete jungle. The key is going to be cutting up some of these bigger blocks. I'm talking like maybe 800 to 1,000. There are spots, literally central Gold Coast, that these blocks sit. They are primed for secondary dwellings. Cutting that maybe into 2 or 3 nice townhouses or dwellings, get more people housed in and help, not going up, more going spread out. I think that's the answer.
Do you see the growth slowing?
I can't see the growth slowing as long as the migration and
the
demand
sun keeps shining here.
Well, the hard thing is it's not just tourism now. So this is the exciting thing. Even one comes to mind. It just got released last week. Like Baz Luhrmann's backing this big. Miami's going to become the film and TV hub. So film and TV is booming. We got a medical precinct where there's a tech hub coming soon in Currumbin, and they want to make sure that it's like our San Fran is in the Southern Gold Coast.
Yeah, wow.
All these industrials are doing well, like commercials popping up. Like it's booming outside of just coming here to go to Dreamworld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's becoming a city. The layer on top of everything, which I've never understood because I grew up in Queensland, is the climate makes a big difference to someone's life.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important sun, you can go for a swim in winter.
Go and spend a little bit of time in Melbourne and then you'll realize very quickly.
I didn't realize till I got older and then I started traveling. Yeah. I'm like, how do you have to rug up? It's freezing and I don't feel like going to the gym. And you come to the Golgi, we're recording this in June, July, right? And I bet 4 o'clock this morning, there would have been people running everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so it's I've realized post-COVID especially, people are now valuing lifestyle, the way you live, your mental health more than ever.
And where are you going to get that better than the Gold Coast?
Well, and that's what I say is yes, the demand, constraint, supply and demand, they're all the red brain fundamentals and metrics, but ultimately the big emotional part of it is I'm seeing a mental health shift for wellness. And I think if there's a spot in Australia that's the mecca for wellness, it's got to be the Gold Coast.
We're sitting in it, absolutely. Yeah. I just wanted to finish off, and maybe you don't have any of these, and I hope you don't, but maybe you do have a client that has come to you with not anything that you've done for them, but maybe a mistake that they've made in their own portfolio. Do you have any horror stories to do with anything in property that you can cast your mind back to? A client that bought a dud 8 years ago, or a settlement that didn't go through, or anything like that you can share?
Yeah. I mean, if you're working in the property industry, there's always stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm just trying to think. Probably the one, it hasn't happened to anyone in our team, but I've seen this happen to people buying on the Gold Coast because it's so competitive, is not understanding the true definition of their finance clause. So for example, really simply, competitive market, it's taken you beyond 9 months, you're sick of it, you're just like, I need to get in the market. The real estate agent who's represented by the seller is telling you, wipe your finance clause, it will get you a better seat at the table. Trust me.
Right.
So these everyday buyers are like, yep, cool, we'll wipe our finance clause out. And as you know, like they're still getting a loan, but they're just trusting like it'll be sweet.
The broker will come good. It'll come good.
The broker will come good. Yeah. That's a recipe for disaster if you haven't actually played out scenarios.
And the reason why the agent's saying that, and put yourself in the vendor's shoe, if you have two offers and one's not subject to finance and one is, obviously you're going to take the one there. You have to take the one that is not subject to finance. So I get it. I get it. But like that's probably the biggest risk you could undertake in property.
And I see it a lot when it's competitive. Like people are just like, you know what? I'm just going to wipe my finance. But like, have you actually spoke to your finance broker, run the scenarios? What if the valuation comes in short? Play it out. Like we've done those strategies for particular buyers to get things over the line because we knew that was the difference. But we spent like literally 4 hours chatting with the broker, making sure, hey, what about this scenario?
Option A, B, C,
exactly.
D.
Yeah. So to just not understand the implications of the buyer protection clauses is probably the biggest.
That's a beautiful piece of advice.
Yeah, the biggest mistake. In terms of an actual like physical property side, I think on the other buyer protection is probably the building and pest clause. You know, like people keen on a renovation, they watch the block, especially the Gold Coast, it's gentrifying. They're like, awesome money, let's do this. Same thing, competitive, let's wipe all the clauses out. And then they budgeted this amount for the reno, but then all of a sudden they're chipping in a spare side, they're chipping into this, and that's broken, and it becomes like a money pit.
Become undone.
Yeah.
And then lastly, just one last little piece of advice you could give maybe a first-time investor, or maybe they got one property, just something that they could go, piece of advice Matt Srama can give them to go, I'm going to take that, I'm going to continue on this journey. I should have pre-warned you and asked you some of these questions off.
No, just because I've got this little quote book and I've got 1,000 quotes. And the one that comes to mind, and I always used to have this quote when I was an athlete, right? And I think it can translate well into property, in business, in anything. And it's, if your mind is blind to the opportunity and the possibility, your eyes will be blind to literally that opportunity sitting in front of you. And what that means is, I've noticed with the best in sport, just like the best in property, just like the best in business, they believe it in their mind first. They can visualize it and they can see it and they believe in it. So if you're someone who can't even visualize and see it and believe, you don't have to fully, but like you back yourself to have a crack, you will see the deal of the century will be sitting in front of you and you're not going to see it. Yeah. So if your mind is blind to the possibility, your eyes will be blind to the opportunity.
So then conceptualize it, visualize it, and then you'll be able to execute on that opportunity when
you'll
it's
see it more. Yeah, you'll see it more, because at the end of the day, life goes to those who are willing to take calculated risk and take action. And the gap between your thoughts and your action is essentially, if you can minimize that, that's the game.
That's beautiful. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. Just in rounding it out, if anyone wants to get in touch, where can they get a little bit more Matt Srama in their lives? Yeah, I mean, Instagram's probably where I'm most active. So Matt_Srama, and our buyer's agency is just SRAMA, Gold Coast. So check them out, and
Yeah, hit us up.
Legend. Thanks so much. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Will do. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Legend.